Not even time to let this music play out anymore, Alice. This is a wild day, and it couldn't have broken at a better time for me. Not only during my radio show for WTIC, which is why we're in Connecticut right now, but also because we get to talk about it, and nobody else is at the moment, which is nice to have an early bite at the apple.
I know we were actually digging around trying to find a podcast on the way here, and Ben Shapiro, the title of his podcast was about the Hunter Biden plea deal. And we put it on, and it was recorded before all the drama happened today.
Right. And 3 Martini Lunch, which I listened to as well, they didn't have the update. Oh, all of our levels are flat here. Hold on. I'm sorry about this. In the travel, the mixer got jottled around, so some of the stuff is a little bit off. The pan is off. So here's a little bit of NBC's Tom Winters trying to keep up with what's going on. He's the legal guy down in the Delaware courtroom.
The son of the President of the United States has just pleaded not guilty. Not guilty is what he has pleaded to. The judge here says that she will not accept or reject the plea agreement. She wants more information. Basically, what she is asking for is to determine whether or not it's appropriate for her to consider something in the diversion program. This relates to the gun charge. So as part of that agreement, effectively what you have here is a provision which asks the court to weigh whether or not possibly Hunter Biden could have violated his pretrial diversion agreement as it relates to the gun charge. What would happen, according to that agreement, is that the defense and the prosecution would have the opportunity to bring the facts to the court and for the court to determine whether or not there was a breach of that. If there is a breach, then the government could then move forward and prosecute Hunter Biden on the gun charge. What she says is, wait just a minute. I'm not somebody who normally has to consider those provisions.
This guy, by the way, they're just miking him up as he's speaking. He's in a total sweat.
Well, and this time of day it was so weird because Tom came downstairs. I was working, and he's like, oh my gosh, they rejected Hunter's plea deal. This was after all the drama last night. Then I'd been telling Tom about how Hunter's law firm called the clerk's office and tried to get an amicus brief that the GOP Oversight Committee had submitted taken down because they felt there was information in it that should have been redacted. Well, you're not supposed to take down something that a different lawyer submitted to the court. So apparently the clerk believed what they were telling them was that they were from the GOP Oversight Committee. Now, the law firm claims it was all a misunderstanding, that the person didn't mean to say that who called up. But it definitely is not. The judge is already predisposed to be in a bad mood with you if you screw around with their clerks. Generally speaking, they're not a fan of you calling up and whatever, accidentally or not, managing to mislead the clerk into believing that you're the attorneys who submitted something else and that you're a completely different person. So the judge was mad about that, made them plead their case to not be sanctioned last night at 9 p.m. So now they get in here today, and Tom comes downstairs and goes, oh, they've rejected his plea deal. And then it was like just pure chaos because all the news outlets were reporting different stuff as they got information from inside the courtroom. This was all during the hearing. They rejected the plea deal. The plea deal's back on. Apparently, Hunter Biden's lawyers felt that the plea deal should cover, and I've never heard of or imagined anything like this, but apparently Hunter Biden's lawyers believe that the plea deal covered any prosecution for anything.
Yes, well, so but add the words in perpetuity. In
perpetuity, right. So normally a plea deal is like, I'm going to plead guilty to this and like testify about whatever. And in exchange, I'm going to get immunity on all the related charges arising from this situation. Hunter's lawyers were in there asking like, this also covers like doing stuff as an unregistered foreign agent too, right? Like, and the prosecution and the judge were like, no, like, it's not that you plead guilty to the gun charge and the tax charge and now you can't be prosecuted for anything ever again. Like, that's not really a normal plea deal. And so the judge, essentially said, I don't think there's any precedent for this. And then told him and then plus on top of that, if you violate the terms of your probation with the gun charge that you're agreeing to, this diversion program, well then what? Does that mean we can come back and prosecute you on the tax case? Does it mean we can then prosecute you for being a foreign agent if you violate your, the judge essentially was saying this might not even be constitutional at all, this whole thing, the way that this plea deal is set up. The judge isn't convinced that this is even a normal legal thing, which is kind of cool because it does vindicate all the people who've been saying this is not a normal plea deal.
Right.
What Hunter's been getting here.
In the CNN breakdown from their lawyer reporter says, not Tubin, by the way, the proceedings kicked off in routine fashion. Hunter Biden was placed under oath and told U.S. District Court Mary Ellen Noriega in appointing President Donald Trump, who was supported by Senate Democrats, that he wanted to plead guilty. Noriega began asking him a series of procedural questions that are asked at basically every federal hearing. But as things dragged on and Noriega quizzed the lawyers from both sides about the particulars of the tax deal, she sussed out a disagreement between the parties on a critical question. Did the deal protect Hunter from possibly facing additional charges for illegal foreign lobbying, known as FARA, the Foreign Agents Registration Act, which he's most certainly guilty of?
Yeah, duh.
Yeah, the Justice Department said no, but Biden's team thought yes. Without a meeting of the minds, as Noriega put it, there could be no deal. It appeared at that moment that the plea agreement was on the brink of collapse, but Chris Clark, Hunter Biden's lawyer, asked for a short recess to consult with the prosecutors. After a break, he announced that he was accepting the Justice Department's position that his client was still at risk of possible FARA charges with an investigation still underway. Things then appeared to be back on track, and Noriega pressed forward with addressing the separate gun deal. She said she has concerns about the constitutionality of the gun deal because it might violate separation of powers principles. The felony charge revolves around a gun Hunter bought in 2018. You know it. He lied on his purchase form, his federal form, etc. Noriega expressed frustration that the two sides structured tax and gun plea deals in a way where she would need to approve the gun deal but had no powers to approve or reject the tax agreement. The diversion agreement, which isn't often submitted to a judge, has a provision that says if there is a dispute over whether Hunter Biden breached the terms of the deal, it would go to the judge for fact-finding. Noriega questioned why it would plop her in the middle of a deal she didn't have a say in and potentially block the Justice Department from bringing charges. Biden's attorney said given the politicization of the case, they wanted a neutral arbiter like Noriega to handle any potential disputes. The judge said she couldn't decide on the fly if that was a legally workable plan. I cannot accept the plea arrangement today, Noriega said. What happens next? The judge asked both parties to file additional legal briefs defending the constitutionality of the plea deal that addresses the firearms charges. The parties have 30 days to file these briefs according to the court docket. What happens after that isn't clear at this time. Noriega could schedule another hearing for oral arguments to further flesh out the complex constitutional questions at hand. She could issue a written ruling accepting their explanations and agreeing to move forward with a guilty plea. So the Republicans are trying to, as we heard a lawyer with Howie later tonight, the Republicans are trying to drag Hunter in front of a congressional hearing. And the lawyer, according to the lawyer, the fear would be that he could be immunized if he did that. And of course, that could be eventful if he gives up Joe, but not good if he just clams up or lies.
Yeah, but also congressional hearings don't really have the power to do anything either.
Well, if it gave indisputable evidence to the Attorney General that Hunter and Joe were working together, and Joe was paid money for influence, I mean, it would certainly, in a presidential year, it would certainly get an independent counsel or special prosecutor, whatever you want to call it.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. Morgan in the chat says, Hunter will skate. Don't hold your breath. The judge will get a phone call tonight and Hunter will continue on his merry way. Meanwhile, Jerry Callahan's friend goes to prison for 6 months for paying employees under the table. Yeah, we all know that, the rules don't apply to some people the same way that they apply to normals like us. Like Hunter Biden has a special deal. I mean, and just the fact that the judge isn't sure if this deal is constitutional, this is not... the narrative was like, oh, people plea things down all the time. This is totally normal. Like, the fact that the judge can't even figure out if this is a legal plea agreement should tell you right there that this is not like a normal setup that they've organized here with the gun charges and the tax charges and the whole thing. This is not a normal thing that the government has put together here for Hunter Biden. This is a special deal. Meanwhile, we have at the same time, Business Insider is writing a piece about how, people have spent these millions of dollars on Hunter Biden paintings, and like some of them have had appointments by Biden. They're like big Biden donors and have had appointments by him. So, I mean, obviously, this is corrupt. We all knew that the painting deal was corrupt. Everyone said it was. And like, people are going to ask Karine Jean-Pierre about this, and she's going to be like, oh, I'm going to refer you to the gallerist or whatever the stupid thing that they said. But like, this whole thing, like, everyone knows it's like so above board. But I don't know. I mean, like, do you think that this impacts whether or not the Democrats run him for 2024?
Yes, absolutely. So now he's going to have either the Hunter thing attached to him, or he's going to, and Hunter's still going to be in jeopardy. It's like, wow. I mean, politically, that is such a liability. Because the worst, it's going to, if Hunter goes to trial, then you've got a situation because he stays in the news cycle.
Well, just the fact that his lawyers weren't willing to take a plea deal that they thought wasn't going to make him immune from everything forever tells you right there.
Well, they originally, yeah, but also I think the lawyers got scared by the mobs. They got scared by people like us and you guys, and so they felt the pressure.
The great
and probably internally, probably some of the teams that probably said, no, we're not playing this crap anymore. We worked hard on all this stuff, and the whistleblowers, the IRS whistleblowers were good. They were effective.
It looks terrible. Yeah, and the other thing about this that's great is that because he, at the end of all this today, he ended up pleading not guilty while they go work on their plea deal more. And as a part of his release agreement to not be detained pre-trial, he has to not drink, not do drugs. He can't, he has to be looking for a job, and he has to submit to random drug testing. So I would say some of that might be a problem for Hunter Biden, since he's a huge deadbeat who definitely does drugs, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, yes, I would say so.
So I think that's also got a lot of people interested in what goes on here. I definitely don't think that was like on his list of things to agree to today was random drug testing. Definitely not, like Morgan says, it could end up that this goes nowhere anyway at the end of the day, but this was not the day that Hunter Biden wanted to be having today.
It's actually better in a sense if it doesn't go somewhere. One, you're certainly going to galvanize GOP voters. Two, these IRS guys, etc., they're drawing the line to Joe Biden. And three, politically, it's a problem if you're a Democrat. You don't need, the guy is losing his mind. He's slow. His dog is mauling half the White House staff, and he is not corrupt. He's damn sure doing shadowy things that seem like they're corrupt. This is Joe I'm talking about.
Right.
So he's a problematic candidate. Plus, the country already hates him now. His poll numbers are low now.
Well,
the company hates him. The company hates the Inflation Reduction Act. What did I say?
Company?
Oh, yeah. The country hates the Inflation Reduction Act. The country. I mean, you know what? This Afghanistan story. There's another story to tell just about this ham-handed, bonehead, cynical, narcissist president, pulls the crap at the Border Patrol, and then this happens where he totally F's up Afghanistan,
right, so
leaves people to be blown to smithereens, and then,
and this story just came out now 2 years later, which is insane that this is the first time that we're hearing about this, but a Republican congressman gave this information to Fox News yesterday, apparently, so if you remember at that Kabul airport, as the Marines were trying to get like interpreters and American citizens and other people who had a right to get out of the country out safely after the Biden administration completely effed up that whole country, and left everybody there to die under the Taliban, essentially. And then a suicide bomber blew up a bunch of people, including, 13 U.S. Marines? Mm-hmm. In the Kabul airport as they're trying to safely evacuate people, get people's babies out, all this stuff. And one of those Marines, who is from California, whose name... let me find it. Anyway, her family had her body flown out to California for a funeral with her loved ones. And then they were going to have her flown back. This is Marine Corps Sergeant Nicole L. Gee. She was killed by the suicide bomber 2 years ago at that Kabul airport. And then the family sent her body back to Arlington National Cemetery to be buried, at which point the Pentagon sent them a bill for $60,000 to bury their daughter in Arlington National Cemetery. And I realized that, they had the funeral in California and then sent her back to Arlington National Cemetery. And the Department of Defense apparently says they have the discretion to charge this back to families. If they have the discretion, they also have the discretion not to do it. And it seems like an egregious, insane amount of money. It seems like this should never have happened. It seems insane that we're only hearing about this now. And it's truly an astonishing story. When I've said it to people, they've said like, oh, but it was a mistake. They screwed up. They corrected it, right? No, it's 2 years later. A charity helped the family pay this bill to get their daughter buried, who was essentially killed by the stupid actions of the Biden administration. Joe Biden should be on that phone with that family like today.
Right.
The second this story broke, he should have called them up and said, I am so sorry. I cannot believe this happened. Mr. freaking empathy, Mr. My son died in Iraq, or whatever he says. That's not strictly really true. I think he should be talking to that family and figuring out whose head needs to roll at the Department of Defense over that, because to charge a family $60,000 after you've gotten their kid killed is insanity. And it's stuff like this, these morons running the Department of Defense who make decisions like this, that are leading people not to send their kids to join the armed services. Like, I'm sorry, they can pay for every stupid thing. They can pay for like abortion travel to states where abortions are legal. They can pay for sex change operations, for seemingly, does it seem to you like the armed forces have like a hugely disproportionate number of trans people right now?
Yeah, I would say so.
So I don't know what's going on with that, but we're paying for all that. Like, I saw somebody say on Twitter, and it's so true, like, oh, the Department of Defense finally found something they don't want to write a blank check for. Like, yeah, I guess so. I guess, like, the young Americans that you get killed, like, for their funeral services. Like, I don't honestly care if the family wanted their daughter to go around the country on tour in a train like Abraham Lincoln did after he died. Like, the Pentagon should pay for that, too. Like, I don't care that they had to fly her across the country. Like, pay for it. Just pick up the bill and pay for it.
Yeah.
Their daughter's dead. I mean, like, come on.
Look. It's such a terrible look.
So bad. And it's something that's, like, so visceral. First we were talking about the thing where Biden won't acknowledge his granddaughter. And then we were talking about how he sicks his dog on the entire White House staff, including the Secret Service. And now this. These are all things that are, like, so visceral to people that, like, you don't have to be super into politics to understand. You don't have to follow a bunch of Ukrainian characters and oligarchs and stuff to figure it out and like be able to follow what's going on. You don't have to follow the details of Hunter's plea deal and, to be able to understand that something bad is happening. It's stories like that where it's like, oh, Biden's Department of Defense charged a family $60,000 to bury their daughter after they got her killed. I mean, like, that's a takeaway that you don't want to have as president. And I guarantee you, like, if you put Trump on that debate stage with Biden, he's going to bring up that Marine and that family.
Oh, my goodness. He'll have only her first name, just like he had Kate Steinle. He could only figure out Kate. But there's no doubt that he will, and he should, as a matter of fact. I mean, the entire story of Afghanistan is a horrific stain on this country. And, I mean, it just... Once again, every generation learns, do not trust the United States when they come saying that they're here to help, because they hightail it when these politically cynical jackals are in the office.
Yeah, that story of that Marines family, that Gold Star family. Like, it's just one of those things that goes in the file of, like, no matter how much you thought you hated the government, you don't hate them enough yet. Like, you have not realized the depths to which they will sink. They are so, so terrible.
Across the town at from Joe Biden's White House at the United States Congress, the Capitol, Mitch McConnell, seemed to have an episode at some point. This is visual, but we'll play it anyway. He's talking,
and a string of,
and then he comes to a grinding halt, and then his mouth is moving, but he's not saying anything anymore.
Still not talking.
Now he's going blank.
Still not talking.
No,
people are looking at each other.
Yes,
behind
he's frozen up, and so everybody's showing. It's like he's seeing a ghost in the fifth row. John Thune tries to move him along here.
So now all these people gather around him, and
yes.
Do you want to say anything else to the press?
Wow, that is not good. So we'll be getting a new senator from Kentucky soon.
So they did bring him back out apparently afterwards.
Great.
And, like,
Can we
he
stop
was
bringing these people back
able
out?
to make
Can we
comments.
retire some of these people, please?
Yeah, can Mitch McConnell, please, like, all these people that are like 100 years old, can we just stop? Like, even I'm willing to go there with you guys on Trump. I know he's not my favorite for the nomination. I think you guys know it, but, like, I just wish he was younger, you know? Although, like, if the DeSantis campaign keeps screwing up, like, I'd rather take Trump sometimes. I don't know.
Well, you know,
they're like
funny.
a disaster right now. What a terrible week for them for headlines. I don't know. Like, so they had to they fired a ton of staffers, actually. They canceled some fundraisers. They fired a ton of staffers. They had to fire one staffer who made a video that featured that, like, Sonnenrad, like, sun Nazi thing.
Great.
Did you hear about any of this?
No.
It was Nate Hochman. I mean, he's buddies with a bunch of people in the conservative movement. They fired him. He claims he didn't know it was a Nazi symbol.
I assume he didn't know it was a Nazi signal unless it was sent in by Trump to torpedo the campaign.
I mean, yeah, like, so
what's a
he's
Nazi signal?
It's like called a Sonnenrad, I guess. It's like a sun thing. You haven't seen this? If you Google it, you can find the image. Let me find it for you. But DuckDuckGo it. Yeah. So if you look at the symbol, it's like
I wouldn't have known it was a Nazi symbol. That said, I wouldn't have used it.
So this is what it looked like in the campaign ad here. It was like this, and DeSantis's face is superimposed on it. See, with the soldiers walking. I don't know. The way it's used in the video, I don't know if I believe that he knew it was a Nazi symbol or not. I'm not sure. There's been a bunch of people who say that they know him and like him and they believe he didn't know it was a Nazi symbol. I don't know what to make of it. Anyway, I think when your staffer makes a video that shows you superimposed on a Nazi symbol, that you have to fire the staffer, right?
Yes, I guess so. I guess you fire the staffer. That said, you know, it might be good publicity for him because he can't get any oxygen because Trump's getting indicted, the Biden's getting indicted. Like, everybody, the big heavies are in. Well, they're all waiting in the cafeteria line. All these primary Republicans. There are two, like, giants fighting in the streets, throwing each other into buildings in real life. So it's like Trump is actually fighting the culture war right now and fighting the establishment right now, so whether he likes it or not.
The other thing that, I don't know, it got a lot of people upset today, but I actually thought this was kind of a good answer. But he got asked, Ron DeSantis got asked if he would consider RFK Jr. For his running mate, potentially.
You know, you need somebody that's going to reflect the values of the broad coalition. Yes, the medical stuff, I'm very good on that. So that does appeal to me, but there's a whole host of other things that he'd probably be out of step with. And so on that regard, it's like, okay, if you're president, sick him on the FDA if he'd be willing to serve, or sick him on CDC. But in terms of being veep, if there's 70% of the issues that he may be averse to our base on, that just creates an issue. You need somebody that's going to reflect.
I didn't think it was a terrible answer.
I think it's a great answer.
I mean,
But I know
but
that
it upset all the establishment people who like Ron DeSantis because they were like, "What do you mean he should stay far away from RFK and blah blah blah? And he's a kook and a quack."
Establishment people also feel RFK is, you're right, kook, quack, and anti-Semite now. So
right, and they were like, "He needs to stay as far away from him as possible." Like, I don't necessarily think so. I think kind of the more he can capture that energy of like what's happening there, because that sort of constituency is very energized.
I agree.
still.
And also, what those people are, the establishment Republicans don't understand is saying that you'd bring on RFK means that you're reinforcing your FU administrative state bona fides.
Right.
And
it's
we
not
need
even
what
about
Republican voters are looking for, obviously, because they see it in Trump, is FU candidate. They want a Royal Rumble battle royal Republican, or at least to have the capacity to do it. And, the establishment hates RFK. It's good branding, I think, for DeSantis.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think a lot of outlets were reporting that he said he'd make him head of the FDA or CDC. That's not actually what he said. He said he'd sick them on the FDA.
That implies, though.
I mean, yeah, it's unclear exactly what he meant by that. But, I don't necessarily agree with RFK on everything he says medically. I'm not there, but I'm all for dismantling the FDA and the CDC because they kill way more people than they help all the time.
So I have to ask you a question as a parent.
Yes.
We promised our kids that they would go to the pool. And
we're now 26 minutes in, and we have a bunch of chat messages.
Yeah, so go to the chat here.
So we will, let's jump to the chat.
Just that it closes soon, and it's a long story. Okay. We'll try to do better tomorrow. We will do better tomorrow.
We will do better tomorrow. And we already have our setup. We won't move anything. Well, you might actually need to move your computer for work tomorrow.
Stephen Gloucester, Glorious Day 1.
All right.
What a glorious sunglasses and slut.
You lying bastard. Naming convention bandit.
Oh, wow.
It's filled
It is
kinda
not
bad
Stephen
today.
Sunglasser.
Sunglasses.
He sent picture with his little sunglasses on. He sent me 3 pictures. First of all, only women should take pictures to show their legs in a beach chair. Picture with his little flipper sandals on. And
His Adidas slides.
No, and by the way, he has a pedicure. You can see that he gets a pedicures. And
Thought his feet looked good.
And he was drinking a strawberry daiquiri, a very
You know what's
effeminate
interesting
drink.
to me, though?
I think
is
I
that
told him
he's
this.
willing to send you pictures of his feet. Do you think he sends Kirk pictures of his feet?
He's a highly paid KMS capo. That's not his role.
Yeah, but I think it shows he doesn't respect you. I think he'd be scared to send his feet pics to Kirk.
Right. Well, so would I, right? I mean,
Wouldn't we all? Wouldn't we all?
Me. But no, I told him today, and I stand by it, that police should have gathered him up and billy clubbed him till an inch within his
the car, sunglasses on the beach, sunglasses in the store, slides on from the drive to the beach to the walk, digging my bare feet into the sand.
Ugh.
Oh, it was spectacular.
Oh, man.
Oh, and I'm sorry. Did I label this wrong with your Stewie decibel system? Oh, so sad. So sorry.
You think
Maybe
you
I'll get
labeled
it right
wrong
next
for
time.
Minahan? No, I think that Tim from Canton, when he's hanging with us, it's a different kind of hang. It's more he gets to. I think he more feels he's at work when he's with Kirk. He's doing a job. He's getting scalps. He's a killer. People don't realize that. People, for burn barrel folks who don't know, Tim and Canton don't realize how infamous he is on the national scene. Because he comes here and he's a nice guy generally, except for his discussing feet stuff. DRC, LS. Oh wait, 5 hours ago, 23 hours ago. Okay, LSMFT.
I don't know what any of that means.
What's that?
Oh my God, it's so hot. It's so hot I have to keep drinking water or I'll die.
So it's Dr.
Oh
Cheswick,
God,
DRC.
so why is it so
Dr.
hot?
Cheswick.
Oh my God.
He's drinking hot water, Alice. What do you think of
Okay.
that?
Well, it is the
ice
hottest
cream.
month.
Ice cream. Oh, ice cream.
Wow.
Hey, folks, in keeping with the panic porn about the heat, because they can't jump on the COVID train yet, the Herald posted a map of Massachusetts with the heat indexes, not the total number that was going to be the temperature of the day, but the heat indexes. So, of course, they were in triple digits.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
we all know the Herald is McNews. I mean, come on.
Well,
But
yeah.
people who read
I believe
that are
you've
gonna look
signed
at
a
115.
non-disparagement
That's right.
agreement with them,
This
Thomas.
global
No
warming
comment.
is real. And if it's so real, how come people like Obama live on beach houses?
You're right, because they don't believe it.
John Kerry has a house on an island. They would be selling these properties to the rubes like us, who were going to be underwater in just a few short years.
Yeah. They're doing it.
It's just so disgusting, and I'm so glad that it's falling apart at some levels anyway.
Love it.
Please try to stay cool. We need you both.
Thank you. That's a man who doesn't wear sandals. Self-respect, it's called. BBP, Michael Bolton, /streets, /867 5309.
That I recognize.
You do?
867-5309. Good one.
Maybe the burn barrel pod community is not necessarily clamoring for this, but I, for one, am looking forward to the day that Tom and Alice, you go and you see the double feature. What is it? Barbie and Oppenheimer. What are they calling that? Broheimer?
Barbenheimer.
Yeah. But that you wear your matching suits and glasses. That's a sight to be seen. By the way, man, I haven't seen the double feature since I was at the Pilgrim Theater way back in the late 80s, early 90s. I think it was like Deep Throat and New Wave Hookers. So what would that make it? Would it be Deep Hooker or New Wave Throats? I mean, either way, it creates a whole nother porn name. Anyway, I'm just rambling because I'm reminiscing about the good old days.
By the way, how much did the FBI informant from Watergate hate the fact that he was called Deep Throat?
Yeah, that must not have been
It's like, can
great
you guys
with
just
the
come
guys.
to something else in this, please? And also, Alice did dress like me, actually, at one party when we first...
Yeah, for
back
Halloween
in
when I was
2013.
pregnant in 2010, actually. Pregnant with Sally, because I was in Medford.
It's funny. My dog Paxton is the most nicest, caring, sweetest dog in the world. Wouldn't hurt.
Do we love the name Paxton?
I like Stephen Gloucester.
And then you look at the Biden's dogs, and you think it's a remake of the movie Cujo.
No.
True.
I mean, why can't they just put these dogs down and move on with their lives?
Where are you heading to, by the way?
So this buffoon of a president tries to tell everybody yesterday that he cured cancer and that there were only 100 COVID deaths.
Yes.
Well, Mr. Biden, I lost my mother to COVID and cancer a few years ago.
Oof.
So
Sorry.
I really wished you had cured cancer, and I really wish that there were only 100 COVID deaths out there. But the truth of the matter is there isn't, you nitwit. So maybe it is time to retire and hang it up.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
him and McConnell both. How about we work out a deal where we'll give up McConnell if they'll give up Joe Biden? Can we do that?
You know, this is the same stuff that they pulled back when we went back to the balloon. All of a sudden, there was all these UFOs, and they started talking about UFOs this, UFOs that. It was all just a cover-up for what they did right in front of everyone's face. They let that balloon go floating on by, then they shoot it out of the sky. Whee!
Good point.
Hey, what's the matter for you? One day you start at 4:30, one day you start at 6:30. Today you start at 7 o'clock. What's the matter for you?
We're moving. We got a lot of stuff happening. We're moving all over the place.
A lot of things going on.
Yeah, now we're in the nutmeg state now for the next few days, and we get a lot of moving parts.
We like to keep you guys guessing. And, you know, it is nice because I feel like sometimes when we do different times, too, different people can make the live stream. Do you ever notice that?
Yeah.
Sometimes people who can't make it at like 7 p.m. can make it at 4:30.
Is Tim
and vice
illegally
versa.
getting the live stream? Is he a Patreon?
Tim is not on Patreon.
He's getting this from somewhere.
He's
convinced.
not getting it from somewhere.
Never trust a man in sandals.
Thank you so much, you guys, for listening. All you Patreon fans out there. I don't know how long it's going to take to get the video up on the hotel internet, but we're going to give it a shot in a little bit. But first, we're going to bring our kids for a cursory dip in the pool before it closes. Anyway, if you want to join the Patreon, it's patreon.com/burnbarrel. But of course, you can always listen to the show for free at burnbarrelpodcast.com. There's links to all different places to listen. Sign up on YouTube, Rumble to always be notified with a new video.